Ever wondered how your body knows to react when you touch something hot or cold? A seemingly simple question, but the answer lies in one of the most complex and fascinating systems in our bodies, the central nervous system, or CNS for short. Imagine you're the conductor of a grand orchestral symphony. In this metaphor, the CNS is the conductor, orchestrating the symphony of our bodies. It's the control center, processing and responding to sensory information from the body and the external environment. It's the maestro, coordinating all other body systems, from the rapid beat of our hearts during a sprint to the calming rhythm of our breathing as we drift off to sleep. The CNS is made up of two key components, the brain and the spinal cord. It's like a superhighway of information, with billions of neurons transmitting signals at speeds faster than a Formula One car. These signals carry important information, like the sensation of your feet hitting the pavement on a run, or the taste of your favorite ice cream on a hot summer's day. But the CNS isn't just about sensation, it's also about response. When you touch something hot, the CNS sends a signal to your muscles to pull your hand away. When you see a car coming as you're crossing the street, it's the CNS that sends the message to your legs to speed up. It's always on, always processing, always responding, ensuring our survival and our interaction with the world around us. And yet, despite its vital role, the CNS remains somewhat of a mystery. We know more about the surface of Mars than we do about the human brain. It's a testament to the complexity and intricacy of this system, a system that's at the heart of who we are and how we experience the world. It's fascinating, isn't it? The central nervous system is truly the command center of our bodies. It's the conductor of our personal symphony, the maestro of our existence. So let's dive deeper and uncover the secrets of this incredible system. Our central nervous system comprises two key players, the brain and the spinal cord. Let's start with the brain, our body's command center. It's a delicate and complex organ able to process a vast amount of data in a fraction of a second. The brain is divided into different areas, each with a specific role. Think of it like an orchestra, where each instrument contributes to the symphony that is our daily existence. It processes information from our senses, controls our movements, and is responsible for our thoughts, emotions, and memories. Now imagine you're playing a video game. Your brain is the gamer, making decisions at lightning speed. To win, it needs to process the game's information, strategize, and execute commands. But how do these commands reach your fingers to press the right buttons at the right time? Meet the spinal cord, the second half of this dynamic duo. The spinal cord is like the broadband cable that connects your gaming console to the internet. It's the conduit that transmits signals from the brain to the rest of the body and vice versa. This communication bridge is crucial for our survival. Whether it's pulling your hand away from a hot stove or hitting the game-winning shot, the spinal cord ensures the brain's commands are carried out swiftly and accurately. But the spinal cord isn't just a messenger, it also has some decision-making abilities of its own. For instance, in the case of a reflex action like jerking your hand away from a sharp object, the spinal cord can bypass the brain and send a direct signal to your muscles. This quick thinking helps prevent injuries and keeps us safe. In essence, the brain and the spinal cord are the dynamic duo of the central nervous system. They work together like a well-oiled machine, coordinating our bodily functions and responses. The brain, with its superior processing power, strategizes and commands, while the spinal cord ensures these orders are executed throughout the body. The brain and spinal cord work in harmony to keep us functioning smoothly. Now, let's delve deeper into the brain, the master controller of the central nervous system. Imagine a bustling city with various districts each serving a unique purpose. That's what our brain is like, with its different parts each handling specific tasks. There are three main players in this city of neurons: the cerebrum, cerebellum, and brainstem. First up, we have the cerebrum. It's like the city hall, where all the big decisions are made. This is the largest part of the brain, and it's responsible for all the things that make us, well, us, such as thinking, learning, feeling, and creating. The cerebrum is also in charge of interpreting and processing information from our senses, enabling us to see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. Next, we move to the cerebellum, the city's operational center, coordinating precision and timing. It's a bit smaller than the cerebrum, but don't let its size fool you. The cerebellum is the part of the brain that's responsible for our motor movements. It helps us maintain our posture and balance, and ensures that our movements are smooth and coordinated. So whether you're dancing the night away or just reaching for a cup of coffee, you have the cerebellum to thank for that. Finally, we have the brainstem, the city's infrastructure hub, keeping the city alive and functioning. It's the smallest yet the most vital part of the brain. It controls our body's most basic functions, such as heart rate, breathing, and sleep. In essence, the brainstem is what keeps us alive. Each part of the brain has a crucial role to play, working together to ensure that everything runs smoothly. From the thoughts we think to the breaths we take, every single action is directed and controlled by this 3-pound organ nestled within our skulls. So the brain is not just an organ, it's the headquarters of our body's operations. Let's now shift our focus to the spinal cord, the body's communications superhighway. Imagine a bustling city with countless messages zipping back and forth round the clock. That's your spinal cord in action. A slender tubular structure extending from the base of the brain to the lower back, the spinal cord is the main thoroughfare for information flowing between the brain and the body. The spinal cord is not just a passive cable though, it's a complex structure comprising gray and white matter. The butterfly-shaped gray matter at the core consists of neuron cell bodies, while the white matter surrounding it is made up of long, myelinated nerve fibers. These nerve fibers, or axons, transmit signals to and from the brain with amazing speed and accuracy. Now, the role of the spinal cord in our body's communication system is twofold. On one hand, it functions as the conduit for motor information traveling from the brain to our body parts. These signals direct every move you make, whether it's lifting a cup of coffee, typing on a keyboard, or dancing the tango. On the other hand, the spinal cord also carries sensory information from the body back to the brain. This includes everything from the feeling of sand between your toes to the pain of stubbing your toe. It's the spinal cord that enables the brain to keep tabs on what's happening in the body, and respond accordingly. But there's more to the spinal cord than just being the body's message carrier. It also plays a critical role in reflex actions, those automatic responses that happen even before the brain gets the message. For instance, if you touch a hot stove, it's your spinal cord that triggers the swift withdrawal of your hand, potentially saving you from a serious burn. In a nutshell, the spinal cord is an indispensable part of our body's communication network. It's the link that connects the brain with the rest of the body, enabling us to move, feel, and react to our environment. Indeed, without the spinal cord, our brain's commands would never reach their intended destinations. But how does the central nervous system stay protected, you may wonder? Let's unravel the mystery. The central nervous system, comprising the brain and spinal cord, is shielded by an impressive defense system, the meninges and the cerebrospinal fluid. The meninges are a trio of protective membranes that encase the brain and spinal cord. From the outermost layer to the innermost, they are the dura mater, arachnoid mater, and pia mater. Each layer plays a unique role in safeguarding our precious nervous system. The dura mater, aptly named Tough Mother in Latin, is the sturdy outermost layer. It's like a robust shield defending the brain from physical injuries. The arachnoid mater, shaped like a spider's web, is the middle layer. It houses the subarachnoid space filled with cerebrospinal fluid. Lastly, the pia mater, meaning tender mother, is a thin, delicate layer that intimately hugs the surface of the brain and spinal cord, following their every contour. Now let's dive into the cerebrospinal fluid, or CSF. This clear, colorless liquid bathes the brain and spinal cord, cushioning them against sudden movements or impacts. Imagine the CSF as a buoyant life jacket, allowing the brain to float within the skull, reducing its effective weight and preventing it from crushing under its own mass. The CSF also plays a significant role in homeostasis. It delivers nutrients to the nervous tissue and whisks away waste products, ensuring the brain and spinal cord are nourished and healthy. Moreover, it acts as a vehicle for hormones, distributing them throughout the central nervous system. So, the meninges and the cerebrospinal fluid together form a formidable protective shield around the central nervous system. They guard against physical damage, maintain a stable environment, and ensure the optimal functioning of our brain and spinal cord. Clearly, our bodies have a remarkable system in place to safeguard the CNS. It's a testament to the intricate design and the extraordinary capabilities of the human body. At the heart of the CNS are neurons, the building blocks of our nervous system. Imagine a bustling city where messages are being sent and received at lightning speed. This is essentially what's happening within our central nervous system, thanks to a legion of microscopic heroes known as neurons. These tiny but mighty cells are the core components of the CNS, acting as the messengers that transmit signals throughout the body. Each neuron is a marvel of nature's engineering. They're composed of three main parts: the cell body, the dendrites, and the axon. The cell body, or the soma, is the neuron's control center, housing the nucleus. Branching off from the soma are dendrites, tree-like structures that receive messages from other neurons. The axon, a long, slender projection, is the neuron's message highway, carrying signals away from the cell body to other neurons or tissues. Now, how do these neurons communicate? It's a process called neurotransmission, which involves the passing of electrical or chemical signals from one neuron to another. At the end of the axon is a synapse, a tiny gap where the message jumps from one neuron to the next. When an electrical signal reaches the synapse, it triggers the release of neurotransmitters, chemicals that cross the synapse and bind to the next neuron, thus transmitting the message. This is how neurons enable communication within the CNS. They're like a vast network of wires transmitting signals that control everything we do, from the conscious act of picking up a pencil to the unconscious beating of our hearts. The beauty of neurons is that they're not just passive conductors. They're dynamic and adaptable, continuously forming new connections and pathways based on our experiences. This is the basis of learning and memory, and it's why we can adapt to new situations and challenges. Neurons, though tiny, play an enormous role in our daily lives. Whether you're marveling at a sunset, acing an exam, or simply savoring your morning coffee, remember the unseen heroes working tirelessly in the background, making it all possible. Let's see how all these elements come together when the CNS swings into action. Imagine you're in a bustling kitchen preparing a hearty meal. Suddenly, you accidentally touch a hot pan. Before you even register the heat, your central nervous system springs into action. The sensory neurons in your skin detect the intense heat, translating it into an electrical signal. This signal, like a fiery SOS, screams up the peripheral nerves to your spinal cord, the communication superhighway of your body. Now, the spinal cord doesn't need to consult the brain for this emergency. It immediately orchestrates a reflex response. The signal is relayed back down to the muscles of your hand, instructing them to contract and pull away from the hot pan. This all happens in a fraction of a second, faster than a blink of an eye. Meanwhile, the sensory information about the hot pan also takes a trip up to the brain. Here, in the master control room, the brain processes this information. It's your brain that makes you feel the sensation of pain, reminding you not to touch hot pans in the future. It also triggers the release of endorphins, natural painkillers, to lessen your discomfort. And what about the protective structures we talked about earlier? Well, the meninges and cerebrospinal fluid around your brain and spinal cord are like the bodyguards of your central nervous system. They cushion these vital structures from physical impacts and provide a barrier against infections. So even if you stumble back from the hot pan, your brain stays safe, snug, and ready to keep you functioning. This is just one example of how the central nervous system is constantly at work, coordinating our responses to the world around us. It's a complex dance of signals and responses, all orchestrated by the brain, spinal cord, and myriad neurons that make up our central nervous system. As you can see, the CNS is always working behind the scenes, making our daily lives possible. So, what have we learned today about the central nervous system? Well, we've taken a deep dive into the marvels of the central nervous system, a dynamic duo of the brain and spinal cord. The brain, our master controller, orchestrates our thoughts, actions, and emotions. Meanwhile, the spinal cord, our communication superhighway, bridges the gap between our brain and the rest of our bodies, relaying messages at lightning speed. We've uncovered the protective shield of our CNS, the meninges, and the cerebrospinal fluid, safeguarding these vital components from harm. And let's not forget the neurons, the unsung heroes, the building blocks of our CNS, transmitting signals and making everything possible. We've also seen the central nervous system in action, a symphony of intricate processes that enable us to live, think, feel, and interact with the world around us. The central nervous system, complex yet fascinating, is truly the powerhouse of our existence.